It all started off about 12 months ago, which will be about September, October 2013, where Dart Energy, or GP Energy, which is their subsidiary, put in a planning application to carry out exploratory drilling for coal bed methane at a location in Borough in Wrexham. That raised concerns. The planning hearing, there was a lot of public interest, a lot of people turned up. The planning committee turned it down by 17 votes to 2 because they were concerned about the effect on the environment, the effect on the land, the use of vehicles, the fact it was a rural location. There was a number of objections. Following on from that, GP Energy submitted an appeal to the Planning Inspectorate, which is part of the Westminster government, based in Bristol. They gathered evidence up toward August of this year, 2014, and they reported a couple of weeks ago, and they upheld GP Energy's appeal and allowed the planning application to go ahead. Immediately after, the Fracking Wrexham and the Borough campsite was set up, and in the last 2 weeks they've made great strides in making it a permanent camp, and we're ready to stay there until all this is sorted. The idea behind the protectors camp is to hopefully dissuade the landowner from giving his permission for the exploratory drilling to go ahead, to delay the process for iGas, which is now the company that is behind this because they've taken Dart over, and to make it more costly. The end result, we want to stop this going ahead in Borough because we think it's dangerous to the environment, and more so to the food chain because of the level of milk production that takes place in that area. It's more important really that we protect our food chain. If chemicals and gases are released into the water aquifers below this site, it'll harm the livestock. What happens in Pennsylvania is that cattle have drank polluted water, calves have been aborted, the food chain has been polluted, and I think we've got a duty to protect the food chain, because if we don't, food will become increasingly more expensive, and as it is, we've got enough food banks as it is, we've got enough people who can't afford to live day to day, and this will just make the situation worse. You know, I think this is the elephant in the room. You know, it is a big issue, and it's got implications for us all, whether we're campaigners or whether we're just ordinary consumers. You know, we've got a silly situation at the moment that David Cameron is trying to get an infrastructure bill through the House of Commons, which will allow these gas companies to drill under our homes without our permission, and on top of that, once they've finished, they can dump any old waste. And we've had a consultation whereby 99% of the people who responded to the consultation on the infrastructure bill has objected to the legislation, and the government are still going ahead with it. You know, which just makes a joke of democracy really, when you consult and then ignore the results. We have one minister in Wales who is responsible for the planning process, i.e. the final arbiter in giving planning permission to these companies, who is also the minister in charge of Natural Resources Wales. Well, Natural Resources Wales are supposed to regulate the gas companies, yeah? Well, how can they do that if, you know, there's a conflict of interest? The minister has a conflict of interest between his responsibilities. At the moment, very few politicians are coming out against this. There are a few. When you consider that the government has issued PDL licences for exploration over 67% of the land of the UK, that covers an awful lot of population, and these people need to get together and do like we did with the poll tax back in the 1980s. If we have sufficient numbers campaigning against what I call the elephant in the room, yeah, then we'll defeat it. The last thing the government wants, yeah, is for this to happen. They want to push this secretive legislation through the House of Commons as quickly as they can and let the big corporations do what they want with the land. It's governments by corporatism really. You know, they say we're all in this together, but frankly, the effect of lobbying by corporate giants, yeah, just give them so much power over government, and it's the 1% that get listened to, and the 99% of us just get ignored, and that is just not good enough.